Hello, everyone. This week I plan to discuss salvation, but the events of last week were too important from a Christian perspective to ignore. A part of me can't even believe at this moment just how much God was honored in one short week. A few days ago, we celebrated the 246th birthday of America. I so often think how blessed I am to have been born in this country, even with all of its flaws. This week especially, we as Christians need to thank God that the United States Supreme Court ruled in His favor 3 times. Protests abound, but the decisions were right. I wonder, though, if most people actually understand why those brave justices did what they did. I'd like to help you understand why pro-God laws were upheld. Let's begin with the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Historically, there have been 2 kinds of Supreme Courts: those who interpret the Constitution according to its original intent, and those who rule the way they believe the law should have been. The latter was done in 1973 when Roe became law. Why do I say that? There is absolutely no mention of abortion in the Constitution. Let me say that again. Nowhere in the Constitution is abortion mentioned. Thus, to make the law of the land, justices in the early 1970s had to create a law they wanted for this country, and they did so in Roe versus Wade. That is, however, not the job of Supreme Court justices. If something isn't in the Constitution, it has to be returned to the states for a final decision. That should have been done 50 years ago. This week, the 6 justices righted that wrong. They did exactly what they were supposed to do: turn Roe back to the states. If something is not expressly written in the Constitution, it becomes a state's right. I'm so grateful we now have justices who handle the Constitution as it was meant to be handled. Interpret it, not create laws that were never there. Let me also be very clear on another point. Abortion is not banned in this country, even though that's all you hear from protesters, and amazingly, even from people who serve in Congress, who should know better. Abortion will be legal or not legal on a state-by-state basis, but it is absolutely not banned. One might have to drive to another state to get an abortion. After 50 years of killing more than 63 million babies, mothers may now be inconvenienced, but they can still make that decision. Sorry, I have no sympathy. At least I, who sees abortion as evil, which is my right, won't have to pay for someone to take part in that evil as I see it. Far more babies will now have the right guaranteed them from America's beginning in the Declaration of Independence. That is, the right to life. I can't thank the justices enough. The second decision regarding personal prayer in public places is a no-brainer and should have been challenged a long time ago. Christians have and always have had rights. Our Constitution states in the First Amendment that Congress cannot make any law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. I pray you heard that. Let me read that again. Congress cannot make any law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. As Christians, we simply have been unwilling to challenge the wrong we've been handed. Unlike abortion, which is not mentioned in the Constitution and thus had to be returned to the states for a final decision, religion is mentioned. So the justices were free to make a determination, and thankfully, they followed the edicts of the Constitution, which supports religious freedom. I remember years ago, a choir director at our high school said she had to change her plans for the annual Christmas concert because her choir couldn't sing Christian songs. Way back then, I told her that isn't true, and I was right. The problem arose because Christians usually will not stand up for what they believe in, and thus they accept what is not required of them. That all changed recently when one man lost his job because he prayed in public on the football field of a high school following a game. I'm sure people were shocked when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of this man. People have clung to the idea that church and state are separate in America. But the separation of church and state is also not in the Constitution. I hope you heard that. Separation of church and state is not in the Constitution. And because both freedom of speech and freedom of religion are in the Constitution, the justices made the right decision. That is exactly why no school district can stop a choir from singing Christian songs. Christians can pray anywhere, carry their Bibles anywhere, speak their faith anywhere, but few do. We need to have more courage. We have the Holy Spirit living inside us, and He gives us that courage. Sadly, we reduce Him to inferior when we don't use the power He gives us. Remember, the separation of church and state are not in the Constitution. They appeared loosely in a letter written by Thomas Jefferson, a letter that did not advocate such a separation. And they also appear in the words of a liberal Supreme Court of the 1960s. They weren't challenged until now, when this court appears to understand their role is one of interpreters rather than one of writers or rewriters of the Constitution. Stand up for your rights, folks, where God is concerned. People died to give us those rights. The final victory for a safe America is gun control. Guns in the hands of the right people actually save lives. Think of every school shooting. If just one good guy trained to shoot had a gun, most of the students would be alive today. The secret is to kill the shooter before he kills. The Supreme Court saw the Second Amendment in the Constitution and chose to do their job and rule on it rather than create a new law. Killers with guns are the problem, not good guys with guns. Thanks for listening. Next week, I will answer the question, who goes to heaven? Are there requirements beyond? I'm a good person, and I believe. I'll answer that next week. Have a very blessed week. Remember to stand up for what you believe in and never back down, because you don't have to. See you Thursday.